Dalila woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing non-stop. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages. Confused, she grabbed her phone and saw her name trending on TikTok. Her stomach tightened. With shaky hands, she tapped on the most popular video. Millions of views, thousands of comments. The caption promised a shocking secret. As the video played, her breath caught in her throat. The entire internet was watching, judging. Her heart pounded. What was happening? What had she done? Or worse, what had someone done to her? Flashback begins. Dalila had always tried to be kind to Safiya. When their parents married, she welcomed her new stepsister with open arms, hoping they could be like real sisters. But Safiya never saw Dalila as family. She saw her as competition. Dalila's mother had passed away when she was just a child, leaving a deep void in her heart. Her father remarried a few years later, hoping to rebuild their broken home. Safiya and her mother moved in, bringing their own presence into the household. From the outside, they seemed like a happy blended family. But behind closed doors, resentment grew like a poisonous vine. Safiya despised Dalila from the very beginning. She hated the way their father looked at Dalila with pride, how family members spoke of her kindness, how even strangers seemed to gravitate toward her warmth. Dalila was hardworking, humble, and intelligent, qualities Safiya neither possessed nor valued. What she wanted was attention, admiration, and above all, control. No matter how much Safiya tried to outshine her, Dalila remained effortlessly loved. Their father always praised Dalila's achievements, and their relatives favored her for her gentle nature. Even at school, teachers admired Dalila's dedication, while students respected her sincerity. Safiya, on the other hand, had to fight for every bit of recognition. It infuriated her. She hated the way Dalila's presence dimmed her own, and so, she decided, if Dalila wouldn't fade into the background on her own, she would make sure she was erased. The first cracks began subtly. Small, cutting remarks disguised as jokes. A whisper here, a rumor there. Safiya would roll her eyes whenever someone praised Dalila, scoffing as if she knew something others didn't. She would smirk whenever Dalila entered a room, as if sharing an inside joke with herself. And when Dalila wasn't looking, she would steal, manipulate, and lie, all to make herself appear better. But no matter what she did, Dalila's light never dimmed. If anything, she seemed to shine even brighter. So Safiya realized, if she couldn't outshine Dalila, she would have to destroy her instead. The perfect opportunity came when Dalila was on the verge of something great. She was about to receive a scholarship, one that would secure her future and take her to heights Safiya could only dream of. Their father was overjoyed. Their relatives showered Dalila with praise, and even strangers online admired her determination. Safiya clenched her fists every time she heard Dalila's name. It wasn't fair. Why did Dalila get everything while she had to fight for scraps? She refused to let Dalila's success overshadow her any longer, and so she devised a plan to make Dalila fall so hard she would never rise again. She would ruin Dalila's reputation, not just in their home, not just among their friends, but in the eyes of the entire world. She would make sure that when people spoke Dalila's name, they would only remember disgrace. Safiya smiled to herself as the pieces of her plan fell into place. Dalila had no idea what was coming, and when it was over, she wouldn't even recognize herself in the reflection of the lies Safiya was about to create. Dalila never asked for a perfect life. She knew what it felt like to lose, to suffer, to carry the weight of grief too heavy for a child's shoulders. When her mother passed away, she became her father's only reason to keep going. They leaned on each other, filling the empty spaces in their hearts with love and understanding. But life had other plans. Her father remarried, hoping to bring stability to their home. Safiya and her mother moved in, and just like that, Dalila's quiet world was shattered. At first, she tried to be kind. She welcomed Safiya, treating her like a real sister. She believed that time would melt the ice between them, that kindness would bridge the distance. But Safiya never saw Dalila as family. She saw her as a threat. Safiya had always been the center of attention, at least until she moved in with Dalila. Back in her old life, she was the one people admired. Her mother always told her she was special, deserving of the best. But in this new house, in this new family, everything was different. Dalila, with her gentle smile and quiet strength, stole the spotlight without even trying. Their father adored her. Family members praised her. Teachers admired her dedication, and friends cherished her sincerity. No matter how hard Safiya tried, she was always second to Dalila. It burned her from the inside out. She watched as their father spoke about Dalila with pride, his eyes lighting up whenever she achieved something. She listened as people complimented Dalila's intelligence, her kindness, her hard-working nature. It made Safiya sick. What about her? Didn't she deserve love too? Didn't she deserve to be noticed? She resented Dalila's humility, the way she never craved attention, yet received it effortlessly. It wasn't fair. Why did Dalila get everything while she had to fight for scraps? Jealousy festered in her heart, twisting her love into something dark and ugly. She tried to outshine Dalila, dressing better, speaking louder, acting bolder, but it never worked. No matter what she did, Dalila remained in the light while she was trapped in the shadows, and so she made a decision. If she couldn't rise above Dalila, she would pull her down. It started with whispers, subtle, almost harmless. Safiya would roll her eyes when someone praised Dalila, letting out a quiet chuckle as if she knew something others didn't. She would sigh dramatically whenever Dalila spoke, making it seem like she was tired of some hidden flaw only she could see. Then came the small lies. She's not as innocent as she seems, she would say casually to family members. You don't know the real Dalila. Little by little, she planted doubt in people's minds. She made them question Dalila's perfection, made them wonder if there was something they had missed. And as soon as she saw the first signs of suspicion, she knew she was on the right path. But small lies weren't enough. She wanted to break Dalila completely. She wanted to see the golden girl fall, to watch the light in her eyes dim until there was nothing left. The perfect opportunity arrived when Dalila was on the verge of something great, a prestigious scholarship, one that would secure her future and take her far beyond Safiya's reach. Their father was overjoyed, their relatives celebrated, and even strangers online admired Dalila's hard work. That was the final straw. Safiya clenched her fists every time she heard Dalila's name. She couldn't let this happen. She couldn't let Dalila win again, and so she hatched a plan so cruel, so perfectly crafted, that once it was set in motion, there would be no escape. She would ruin Dalila's reputation, not just within their home, but in the eyes of the world. She would turn Dalila's name into something ugly, something shameful. She would make sure that when people thought of Dalila, they wouldn't remember her kindness, her hard work, or her success. They would only remember disgrace. Safiya smiled to herself as the pieces of her plan fell into place. Dalila had no idea what was coming. She still believed in love, in family, in justice. But soon, all of that would be ripped away from her. And when it was over, when Dalila was nothing but a shadow of who she used to be, Safiya would finally be free from the one thing that had tormented her for years, the unbearable presence of a sister who never had to try to be loved. Dalila had spent years building a name for herself, one of honesty, hard work, and resilience. She never asked for shortcuts, never begged for favors. She earned everything through late nights of studying, sacrificing sleep, and pushing herself beyond exhaustion. She believed that if she worked hard enough, no one could take away what was rightfully hers. She was wrong. One morning, as Dalila sat in the university library, preparing for an upcoming exam, she noticed people whispering around her. At first, she ignored it, assuming it was nothing. But then, a girl she barely knew approached her, phone in hand, eyes filled with hesitation. Dalila, is this true? Dalila frowned. Is what true? The girl hesitated before flipping her phone around. Dalila's heart stopped. On the screen was a viral post from a popular gossip page, showing what appeared to be a private conversation, one that she had never had. The screenshot showed her name, her profile picture, and a series of desperate messages. Dalila, please sir, I'll do anything. Just change my grades. I can't afford to fail. Professor Mensa, I don't do favors. Dalila, you should have studied harder. Dalila, I swear, I'll make it worth your while. No one has to know. She snatched the phone, staring in disbelief. This isn't me. I never sent these messages, but it was too late. Within hours, the post had spread across campus like wildfire. Everyone had seen it. The whispers turned into open stares, hushed conversations in hallways, mocking glances from students she once called friends. She's been exposed. She always acted so innocent. I knew she was too good to be true. Dalila could barely breathe. She rushed to her professor's office, desperate to clear her name, but the damage was done. Sir, I swear I never sent those messages. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Professor Mensa sighed, looking at her with disappointment. Dalila, I have always respected you as a student, but this is serious. The university is launching an investigation. Until then, you are suspended. The words hit her like a slap. Suspended? I'm sorry, Dalila. Number this couldn't be happening. She stumbled out of the office, her vision blurred with unshed tears. Her phone vibrated non-stop, notifications from classmates, friends, even strangers, people she once trusted, were turning against her. And then, she received the final blow. A text from her part-time job manager. We're sorry, Dalila, but in light of recent events, we have to let you go. She dropped her phone, her entire world crumbling in an instant. Everything she had worked for was gone. The walls of the university that once felt like home now felt suffocating. Her father, the man who always believed in her, was devastated. When she arrived home, his eyes were filled with questions. Dalila, tell me it's not true. She wanted to scream, to cry, to make him believe her, but the doubt in his eyes shattered her completely. And in the corner of the room, Safiya watched it all with a satisfied smirk. Dalila had always been the girl everyone admired, hard-working, kind, and determined. She never thought that one lie could erase years of effort. But now, she walked through the university hallways with her head down, trying to block out the whispers that followed her like a shadow. She's the girl who cheated. What a fraud. She acted so innocent. But look at her now. Dalila's hands trembled as she clutched her books, her heart pounding with every step. The people she once called friends no longer met her eyes. Some even crossed the hallway to avoid her, as if she carried a contagious disease. Online, it was even worse. Every time she opened her phone, her notifications were flooded with cruel messages. Liar. Disgusting. You don't deserve to be in university. Your father must be ashamed. Each word cut deeper than a knife, turning her once bright world into a never-ending nightmare. At home, things weren't any better. Her stepmother, Aisha, pretended to be supportive, offering soft words of comfort. Dalila, don't worry. People will forget soon, she would say, patting her shoulder. But the glint in her eyes told a different story. She was enjoying every second of Dalila's suffering. And Safiya? Safiya played her role perfectly. She hugged Dalila, whispered fake words of reassurance, and even cried in front of their father, pretending to be heartbroken for her stepsister. I just don't understand how this could happen, she sighed, shaking her head. Dalila was always so careful. Their father, already drowning in disappointment, could only sigh. I don't know what to believe anymore. That broke Dalila more than anything. Her own father, her hero, was doubting her. Days turned into weeks, and Dalila stopped trying to fight. She stopped going outside. She stopped checking her phone. She stopped hoping. Her once bright future had disappeared, leaving behind nothing but shame and loneliness. And just when she thought she had lost everything, a message popped up on her phone. Kofi, I know the truth, Dalila, and I'm going to help you prove it. Dalila stared at her phone, her heart racing. Kofi. It had been years since they last spoke. They had grown up together in the same neighborhood, sharing childhood dreams of making it big someday. But life got in the way, and they drifted apart. Now, he was back when she needed someone the most. She hesitated before replying. What do you mean? Seconds later, her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, afraid it was another cruel prank. But something inside her told her to pick up. Kofi. Her voice was weak, barely above a whisper. I know you didn't do it, Dalila, he said firmly, and I can prove it. Tears welled up in her eyes. No one had said that to her in weeks. No one had believed her. How? I looked at the so-called proof, he explained. The screenshots of your conversation with the professor. They don't add up. The font is slightly off, the timestamps don't match, and the profile picture has a faint editing line around it. Dalila sat up, her pulse quickening. You mean it was fake? Completely fake, Kofi confirmed, and I can trace who created it. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered inside her. Can you find out who did it? I already have a suspect. His voice darkened. Safiya. Dalila's stomach twisted. No, she wouldn't. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. She had seen the way Safiya watched her fall apart. She'd felt the cold satisfaction behind her fake tears. I need you to trust me, Kofi continued. I'm setting up a trap. If she's guilty, she'll expose herself. Dalila wiped her tears and took a shaky breath. What do I have to do? The plan was simple, but risky. Kofi placed a small, hidden camera in the living room, hidden beneath a flower vase where no one would notice. He knew Safiya wouldn't confess openly, but if given the right opportunity, she might slip. Dalila played her part well. That evening, she walked into the living room, looking more defeated than ever. Safiya was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, pretending to be innocent. "I think I'm leaving school for good," Dalila murmured, just loud enough for Safiya to hear. Safiya glanced at her, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "Really?" Dalila sighed, sitting beside her. "What's the point? My reputation is destroyed. No one believes me." Safiya tried to hide her smile. "I know it's hard, but maybe it's for the best." Dalila clenched her fists. There it was. The crack in her mask. She forced a weak smile. "I just wish I knew who started the rumors." Safiya hesitated for a moment before laughing softly. "Some people just don't like seeing others succeed." Dalila looked at her, searching for any hint of guilt. "Yeah, I wonder who." Safiya smirked, flipping her hair. "Honestly, I think they did you a favor. You were getting too much attention. You needed to be humbled." Dalila's breath caught in her throat. Safiya leaned closer, her voice a whisper. "You should have seen the way people believed everything. It was too easy." Dalila's heart pounded, but she kept her face calm. Then, Safiya laughed again. "But hey, you always acted so perfect. It was time someone knocked you off that pedestal." Dalila could barely breathe. Kofi had caught everything. The moment Safiya left the room, Kofi stepped out from his hiding place, holding his phone up. "We got her." Dalila stared at him, tears streaming down her face. She wasn't sure if they were from anger, relief, or exhaustion. But one thing was clear, the truth was finally on her side. Dalila sat beside Kofi, watching him work his magic. His fingers moved swiftly over the keyboard, editing the clips together. Every second of Safiya's cruel confession was being turned into something undeniable. Proof. The hidden camera had captured it all. Safiya's smirk, her laughter, her words dripping with jealousy. "You should have seen the way people believed everything. It was too easy." Those words would haunt her forever. Dalila swallowed hard, her heart pounding. "Are you sure this will work?" Kofi didn't look away from the screen. "People believe what they see, and now they'll see the truth." He added captions, zoomed in on Safiya's smug face, and overlaid text exposing every one of her lies. Then, at the bottom of the video, he typed one final sentence: "Justice for Dalila. The truth always comes out." With a deep breath, he hit upload. At first, nothing happened. They refreshed the page once, then twice. A few hundred views, a few comments. Then, suddenly, the numbers began to climb. 10,000 views, 50,000, 100,000. Dalila's hands trembled as she scrolled through the comments. "Oh my God, she really set her up. I believe the rumors. I feel horrible now. Cancel Safiya. Justice for Dalila." More notifications flooded in. Likes, shares, reposts. Then something unexpected. A celebrity commented, "This is disgusting. Stay strong, Dalila. We see you now." Dalila's breath hitched. The comment had over 10,000 likes already. Then another famous influencer shared the video with the caption, "How can someone be this evil?" The numbers exploded. 1 million views, 2 million, 5 million. Dalila clutched her chest as Kofi let out a victorious laugh. "It's working. The whole world is seeing the truth." Then, something even more shocking. The university issued a public statement. They had seen the video. They were conducting an immediate investigation. Dalila's suspension was under review. And Safiya, her name was everywhere now, but for all the wrong reasons. People flooded her social media, calling her out. "How do you sleep at night? You ruined your own sister's life out of jealousy? Say something. Are you not ashamed?" Safiya went silent. She deleted her posts, turned off her comments, but it was too late. Screenshots were everywhere. The truth couldn't be erased. Dalila watched as the girl who had tried to destroy her was now the one crumbling. Her stepmother tried to defend her, but no one cared. The truth was too clear. Kofi turned to Dalila, smiling. "You've got your life back." Dalila exhaled slowly, feeling a weight lift from her chest. The world had finally heard her. The truth had finally won. The first time Dalila heard the news, she could barely believe it. She had spent so many sleepless nights wondering if the world would ever see her for who she truly was. The girl who had worked so hard, who had always kept her head down, who had been destroyed by lies. But now, things were changing. It started with the email from the university. "We have reviewed your case thoroughly, Dalila, and after careful consideration, we are reinstating you as a student. We regret the suspension that was imposed and apologize for any distress it caused." Dalila stared at the screen, unable to process the words. Her breath caught in her throat. She was reinstated. The suspension, the humiliation, it was all being erased. The tears came before she could stop them, tears of relief, of hope, of a future that hadn't yet slipped away. Dalila, what's wrong? Kofi's voice broke through her thoughts. He was sitting beside her, his eyes full of expectation. I'm going back to school, she whispered, her voice shaky. Kofi grinned. I knew they'd do the right thing. But the real shock came moments later when her phone buzzed. We would like to offer you your previous position back at the coffee shop. We value your work ethic and would be thrilled to have you return. Dalila's hands shook. Her part-time job, the only source of income she had left after her suspension, was offering her a second chance. She had feared she'd lose it for good, but now, everything was falling back into place. Her heart swelled with gratitude. She thought of all the nights she had spent slaving over textbooks, balancing work and school, and the deep sense of accomplishment she had felt in those quiet moments. And now she could feel that rhythm of life returning. She was regaining her footing. But the most incredible part wasn't just the university or her job. It was the strangers. On every social media platform, Dalila's notifications exploded. Hundreds, no, thousands of people were apologizing for doubting her. I'm so sorry, Dalila. I believed the lies. I should have trusted you. I can't believe I bought into those rumors. Please forgive me. You've got this, Dalila. Stay strong. The messages flooded her inbox, each one a balm to her broken heart. She had spent so much time feeling invisible, and now, for the first time in months, she felt seen. But just as Dalila was beginning to let herself breathe again, the darkness that had once clouded her life was beginning to turn on its perpetrator, Safiya. Despite her mother's frantic attempts to protect her, the damage was irreversible. Safiya's lies had not only ruined Dalila's life, they had backfired in the most public way possible. It wasn't long before Safiya's social media exploded with hate. People who had once admired her, who had called her beautiful and charming, now turned their backs on her. You did this to your own sister. You're a monster. How can you live with yourself? I feel sick just reading about you. Safiya's carefully crafted persona of a perfect, innocent girl had crumbled to dust. Her mother tried everything. She deleted posts, disabled comments, and made desperate phone calls, begging her daughter's former friends to defend her. But no one would. The truth was out there, and no amount of covering it up would change what the world had seen. Dalila watched from the sidelines, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. She had once shared a home with Safiya. She had once hoped for a sisterly bond. But now, seeing her stepsister's world fall apart, she felt no joy, only a deep, quiet sadness. In the end, it wasn't just the public who was furious with Safiya. It was her own family. Her mother couldn't face the shame. The woman who had once been an advocate for Safiya now avoided her, her own guilt hanging like a thick cloud between them. Mum, Safiya had whispered one night, her voice trembling with desperation. You have to do something. You have to fix this. But her mother just turned away, her eyes filled with disappointment. I can't fix this, Safiya. You did this to yourself. Dalila saw it all unfold from a distance. Safiya, alone in the shadows of her own choices. She didn't take pleasure in it. She didn't want to see anyone fall. But in her heart, Dalila couldn't help but feel that justice had been served. And then, the day came when Dalila stood in front of her university, smiling to herself as she realized her life was beginning again. She was no longer the girl everyone had whispered about, no longer the victim of a cruel lie. She was Dalila, the girl who had risen from the ashes, stronger than ever. She could feel the weight of everything she had lost, but more importantly, she could feel the strength of everything she had gained. As she walked through the campus gates, she couldn't help but smile. It wasn't just the world that had changed, it was her. The world around Dalila felt surreal as she stood at the airport terminal, ready to board the plane that would take her to a future she had once only dreamed of. Her heart beat in a rhythm of hope, gratitude, and strength. But just a few months ago, she had been a completely different person, shamed, betrayed, and lost in the midst of a web of lies spun by her stepsister, Safiya. Now, as Dalila took a deep breath and stepped forward, leaving behind the memories of a painful past, she felt the weight of her journey lifting from her shoulders. Behind her, Safiya lingered in the shadows, watching from a distance. Her face, once full of pride, now reflected only regret. Safiya had done everything she could to destroy Dalila, spreading rumors, forging evidence, and manipulating the truth. But no matter how hard Safiya had tried, Dalila had persevered, and in the end, it was the truth that prevailed. Dalila had reclaimed her reputation, her future, and her peace of mind. But Safiya's life was in ruins, and there was no escaping the consequences of her actions. Dalila knew she didn't need to feel anger towards Safiya. There was no satisfaction in watching someone fall, no joy in seeing them pay for the pain they caused. She had lived through the hurt and humiliation herself. Now it was her time to rise. Her heart was not hardened. It was simply filled with a quiet understanding that the girl who had once tried to tear her down had only succeeded in destroying herself. Safiya had been consumed by envy, and in the end it was that very envy that had shattered her world. As Dalila walked toward her gate, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at the screen to find yet another scholarship offer, this time from a prestigious university in Europe. The doors to her future were opening wide, offering her opportunities she could have never imagined just a few months ago. And as she looked around the terminal, watching families reunited, people headed off on new adventures, she realized that her story had finally turned into one of triumph. Her mind flashed back to the dark days when Safiya's lies had nearly destroyed everything she had worked for. The fake screenshots, the rumors, the cruelty of being accused of things she hadn't done. Dalila had stood alone, fighting a battle with no proof, no defense, and no one who believed her. And then, out of nowhere, a TikTok video had turned the tide. The lies Safiya had carefully crafted had been exposed in front of millions, and suddenly, the world could see who Dalila really was. Her reputation, her dignity, everything she had lost, was being restored. And Safiya, on the other hand, had quickly become the villain in a very public story. The damage she had done was irreparable. Despite her mother's desperate attempts to cover up the scandal, it was too late. Safiya's social media accounts had been deleted, but screenshots of her lies and confession had already spread like wildfire. Public opinion turned against her. People who had once admired her were now disgusted by her actions, and those closest to her began to distance themselves. Her reputation was in tatters, and the shame she carried could not be erased. As Dalila continued her journey through the terminal, she thought about the moment when everything had changed, the moment the truth had finally come to light. It was a bittersweet feeling. She didn't rejoice in Safiya's downfall. She didn't need to see her stepsister suffer. What mattered was that Dalila had stayed true to herself through it all, even when the world had doubted her. And now, the world was finally seeing who she really was. Dalila had no idea what the future would bring, but she knew it would be hers to shape. With the scholarships pouring in, her university reinstating her, and her job offering her a second chance, the pieces of her life were falling into place. She was no longer the girl who had been dragged through the mud by lies. She was the woman who had risen from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and ready to take on the world. As she boarded the plane, Dalila looked out the window and thought about everything she had overcome. She knew Safiya was still somewhere in the background, watching from the shadows. But Dalila no longer felt the weight of her stepsister's presence. She had her own life to live, her own dreams to chase, and nothing could stop her now. Lies may spread fast, but the truth always wins. Envy destroys the one who holds it. Justice can come in unexpected ways, even through a TikTok video. If you've ever faced hardship, judgment, or betrayal, remember this: the truth will always come out in the end. Keep believing in yourself, because the world will eventually see you for who you really are. Want to see more stories of triumph, redemption, and justice? Hit that like button, subscribe, and don't miss out on the next journey.